In a quiet suburban neighborhood, where the streets were lined with perfectly trimmed hedges and the houses echoed with the laughter of families, there was one home that held a secret so dark, so forbidden, that it would eventually tear apart the very fabric of the lives inside. This is the story of Lucy, a 55-year-old woman who had spent her life being the perfect wife and mother, and Ethan, her 25-year-old son, who had just returned home after years of living on his own. On the surface, everything seemed normal. Lucy was the epitome of grace, tending to her garden with care, while Ethan was the handsome young man with a promising future. But beneath the surface, there was a storm brewing. A storm that would lead to betrayal, heartbreak, and ultimately murder. It all began on a sunny afternoon when Ethan came home early from work. Lucy noticed the tension in his shoulders, the way he avoided her gaze. She asked him if everything was okay, but he brushed her off with a simple, "Yeah, just needed some air." Little did she know, those words would be the beginning of the end. Lucy and Ethan had always been close. Too close, some might say. After Ethan's father passed away 5 years ago, the two had become each other's emotional anchors. But as time went on, their relationship began to blur the lines between mother and son. It started innocently enough, long conversations late into the night, shared secrets, and a bond that felt unbreakable. But soon, that bond took a dangerous turn. One evening, after a few glasses of wine, Lucy found herself confiding in Ethan about her loneliness, her fears of growing old alone. Ethan, in turn, opened up about his struggles with relationships, his fear of never finding someone who truly understood him. In that moment, something shifted. The air between them grew heavy, charged with an emotion neither of them could name, or perhaps neither of them wanted to. And then it happened. A touch that lingered too long, a glance that held too much meaning. Before they knew it, they had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. What started as an emotional connection soon turned physical. Lucy and Ethan found themselves caught in a whirlwind of passion and guilt, unable to resist the pull they felt toward each other. They told themselves it was love, a love so powerful that it defied societal norms, a love that no one else could understand. But deep down, they both knew the truth. This wasn't love. This was obsession. They became reckless, sneaking around in their own home, stealing moments when no one was watching. But secrets have a way of coming to light, and it wasn't long before the cracks began to show. Ethan started to pull away. The guilt was eating him alive, and he couldn't bear to look at his mother without feeling a wave of shame. He began spending more time away from home, staying out late, and avoiding Lucy's calls. Lucy, on the other hand, became increasingly possessive. She couldn't stand the thought of Ethan being with anyone else, and her jealousy began to consume her. One night, after a heated argument, Ethan finally snapped. "This is wrong, Mum. We can't keep doing this," he shouted, his voice trembling with anger and despair. But Lucy refused to let go. "You don't mean that," she said, her voice cold and steady. "You love me. You've always loved me." Ethan stormed out of the house, leaving Lucy alone with her thoughts and her growing desperation. Days turned into weeks, and the tension between Lucy and Ethan reached a boiling point. Lucy's obsession had turned into something darker, something dangerous. She began to stalk Ethan, showing up at his workplace, following him on his dates, and even hacking into his phone to read his messages. Ethan, meanwhile, was trying to move on. He had met someone, a kind, understanding woman named Sarah, and for the first time in a long time, he felt a glimmer of hope. But Lucy wasn't about to let him go. One fateful night, she confronted Ethan at his apartment. "You think you can just replace me?" she screamed, her eyes wild with rage. "I gave you everything. Everything." Ethan tried to calm her down, but it was no use. In a fit of blind fury, Lucy grabbed a knife from the kitchen counter and lunged at him. What happened next was a blur. Ethan fought back, trying to disarm her, but the knife slipped, and in an instant, everything changed. When the police arrived, they found Lucy lying on the floor, lifeless, with a single stab wound to her chest. Ethan was sitting in the corner, covered in blood, his face pale with shock. He was arrested on the spot, charged with murder. But as the investigation unfolded, the truth about their relationship came to light. shocking everyone who knew them. Ethan's trial was a media sensation, with headlines screaming about the forbidden affair that ended in murder. The jury was torn. Some saw Ethan as a victim, a young man pushed to the brink by his mother's obsession. Others saw him as a cold-blooded killer. In the end, Ethan was sentenced to 15 years in prison. But for him, the real punishment was the guilt, the knowledge that he had destroyed not only his own life, but the life of the woman who had loved him too much. Lucy and Ethan's story is a tragic reminder of how easily love can turn into obsession and how quickly a forbidden connection can spiral out of control. It's a story about boundaries, about the importance of knowing where to draw the line and the devastating consequences of crossing it. And it's a story about the fragility of the human heart, how easily it can be broken, and how hard it can be to put the pieces back together. As for Ethan, he spends his days in a prison cell, haunted by the memories of what he lost and what he took away. And Lucy? She rests in a quiet grave, her name etched in stone, a reminder of a love that went too far. This is the story of Lucy and Ethan, a story of forbidden love, fatal mistakes, and the price we pay for crossing the line. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more gripping tales. Until next time, stay safe, and remember, some lines are never meant to be crossed.